Welcome to the Ask Dr. Mom Show. Today we will be talking about MS, diabetes, and distilled water. You don't need to be afraid. You can handle this, and here's how you do it.
The Ask Dr. Mom Show.
Welcome to the Ask Dr. Mom Show, Episode 3. In our last episode, I shared with you the first half of an analogy that Samuel Thompson taught in the early 1800s, showing a wood stove that had 4 chimneys, each representing a different channel of elimination which the body uses. Today, I would like to share the second half of that analogy, which shows us how the whole body works together. Years ago, when I was dealing with a child's upper respiratory infection and I was still learning how to work with the body and not against it, I started pulling out my books and looking up what the old herbalist recommended. Without fail, each one of them said, give that child an enema. And at first I thought, you've got to be kidding me. How sadistic. The problem isn't even on that end. But what those old herbalists understood is that nothing that happens in the body is isolated. The whole body is working together. Samuel Thompson's analogy helped open my eyes to how this works. Typically, if the body is going to eliminate something that shouldn't be there, it's going to use the digestive system, the colon. That's what it was designed for. However, if that chimney or system is plugged up, then quite often the body will move over to the respiratory system. These early herbalists understood that. And so they would say, give that child an enema. Because when that chimney was unblocked or opened up, then the body would move over, use the system that it wanted to use in the first place, and all of these respiratory symptoms would miraculously disappear. So, we're going to move on to question number 1, but I want you to remember this analogy so that as we talk about different diseases, conditions, injuries, whatever it is, you will remember that we are going to help the body to accomplish what it is already doing instead of working against it. So Hans, what do we have for question number 1?
Jasmine Santiago asks, hi, I was wondering what the best way is to cure MS.
All right, Jasmine, that's a perfect question for the analogy that we have already been talking about. Thank you for sending that in. MS is considered incurable. However, in the studies that I have done and in my own experiences, I have discovered that there are no incurable diseases unless you wait until you're on your deathbed to try and fix it. However, there are incurable people simply because they will not do what they need to do to fix the problem. In fact, years ago, I had one young woman tell me, I would rather die than give up my Dr. Pepper. The very first thing that I would do is look at the diet. Whenever you have a diseased condition in the body that has become this serious, you have to go back to the basics, you have to go back to the foundation, you have to cleanse and nourish, meaning that we need to clean all of the toxins out of the body, we need to bring the pH scale back to being a little bit alkaline, and we need to give the body the nourishment, the nutrients that the cells need to rebuild themselves. Every cell in our body is constantly being renewed, meaning that the old dies off, a new cell is built. Every single cell in our body has the blueprint for what it is supposed to be doing. It takes about 7 years to replace every single cell in the body. Most are being replaced weekly and monthly, but nerve cells take longer. So let's say to replace every single cell in your body, it's going to take 7 years. If you decided in this moment, today, that 7 years from now, you want to be stronger and healthier than you are today, you can proactively do that by deciding right now that you're going to take this path instead of this path. And we do that through nutrition, exercise, pure water, breathing deeply, relieving stress. We go back to the foundation, back to the basics, and decide, I want to be stronger and healthier tomorrow than I am today. And then we proactively pursue that path. With MS, if you were to walk into my office today and ask me this question, one of the very first things I would recommend, if you can do this, is to look in to the Optimal Health Institute. This is called OHI. There is a location in San Diego and there is a location in Austin, Texas. If possible, I would go there for 3 weeks to do some deep cleansing and to shut the world out so that you can overcome any addictions or bad habits that have led to this point. All right, Hans, what is our next question?
So the next one is by Michelle Phillips, and it's just a comment. It says, "We love you, Dr. Mom."
Michelle, thank you so much for throwing that comment in there. You have no idea how self-conscious I have been since it was suggested that I start filming this show, and so I greatly appreciate that vote of confidence. Hans, what's our next question?
Cool. Crystal Carpenter asks, "I thought you have to be careful with how long you use distilled water."
Crystal, thank you for bringing this question up. I wasn't able to get into as much detail as I wanted to on episode 1 due to time constraints. And so I'm thrilled that you brought this subject back up. You know, our ancestors generations ago used to put the rain barrel out and they would catch the rainwater, and that was their drinking water. And that's pretty much what distilled water is. It's just pure H2O. Now, there's a lot of controversy out there because pure H2O is hungry for minerals. But if we drink, let's say, the well water, which is full of minerals and tastes wonderful. I grew up on a farm, so I grew up on well water. The problem is most of the minerals in that water are broken down rocks. We aren't rock eaters. So it's very difficult for our body to assimilate these minerals. However, the plants are rock eaters. They send their roots down into the ground, they take up the minerals and the nutrients, and it comes up into the plant, and now it's in an organic form where our bodies can actually assimilate it. So, what happens when we drink these minerals that our bodies can't easily assimilate? They tend to be deposited. They can be deposited in organs. Most common places that they are deposited are the joints. And so then we get inflammation, we get arthritis, and because of that, one of the first things that I would do, or that I did with my mother when she was suffering with severe arthritis, is put her on distilled water. Because distilled water is hungry for these inorganic minerals. So when we drink the distilled water, it flushes these minerals out, soaks it up, and we're able to eliminate them. Now, the argument is if we continue to drink distilled water, it will absorb the good minerals and deplete our system. Personally, I don't believe that. If we are taking in minerals that our body can assimilate and use, our body is immediately going to uptake those minerals, put them to work, utilize them. They're not going to be sitting around to be absorbed by the distilled water. So any chance I get, that is the type of water I drink, and I would not hesitate to drink it on a continuing basis. So again, thank you for allowing me to readdress that problem or that question. Hans, what is our question number 4?
So Denise Godwin asks, I have a brother who is sick with diabetes. He was diagnosed at least 10 years ago and his health has gotten worse. Please give me a suggestion of herbs that will heal his body. He takes insulin twice a day and a blood pressure pill also. He's 44 and 6'4" and weighs 350 pounds. Recently I began to notice the skin on his lower legs is darker than I've seen before. I'm worried for him. Please help.
All right, Denise, I have been where you are. My heart goes out to you, and you should be concerned. Diabetes is a devastating disease. There are many herbs, homeopathics, essential oils. There are many things that will help with diabetes. And in future episodes, I will get into a lot of different specifics that you can bring into play on whatever plan you put together. But today, I want to kind of follow the theme that we're talking about and share with you something that took me almost 20 years to figure out. When I first started studying herbal medicine, or how to heal the body naturally, I was still thinking in a very conventional way, meaning that I was treating symptoms. I was using the plants and the oils and good nutrition, and these are all healthier ways to take care of the problem, but we're still following that allopathic medicine mode, meaning that we're treating symptoms instead of the whole body. What I have now come to understand is that instead of focusing on diseased conditions, if we focus on health and obtaining optimal health, then we no longer have to be concerned with disease. In other words, disease is nothing more or less than the absence of health. So if we focus on health, we can eliminate the disease. Now, Denise, I'm not leaving this question behind, but I'm going to move to question 5 because it ties in with yours, and we'll continue on this same train of thought. So Hans, what is question number 5?
Vontrail Crump asked, what is the best thing for diabetes 2? How do I manage it?
All right, Vontriel, thank you so much for adding to the question that we've already been talking to Denise about. Let me take a quick second here and share one more analogy that I think will help you understand where I'm going with this. If you had a fish tank at home, and that fish tank was dirty, you know, you've got the green growing on the sides of it, and you can't see through the water, and the fish are sick, would you treat the fish, or would you change the water in your tank? Anyone who's ever owned a goldfish knows that you better clean the tank up or your fish are going to die. Diabetes is a prime example of this. Far too often we are trying to treat the fish, meaning that We're working on something for the neuropathy. We're working on something to bring the blood sugars down. We're working on something to strengthen the pancreas. We're working on something to improve the eyesight. These are all good things, and they're all things that we will get into details later. But the point I want to drive home today is diabetes 2 is completely and totally curable. You can reverse this, you can cure it, but you have to be willing to go back to the basics. You have to clean up the diet. You have to get enough exercise. You have to breathe deeply. You have to get rid of the excess weight. You have to alkalize the body. And when you do this, you can reverse everything. We are out of time for today. So please keep sending your questions and your comments to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. This is the Ask Dr. Mom Show. I'm Sandra Ellis. I hope that you'll be proactive this week. Start taking greater responsibility for your own health, and we'll see you again next week.